Mel Gibson was untouchable. An action star. A leading man. An Oscar-winning director. For 2 decades, he commanded the screen with a magnetism few could match.
Mad Max made him a legend. Lethal Weapon made him a household name.
Braveheart made him an icon.
He wasn't just successful, he was powerful.
One of the most bankable stars in Hollywood history.
And then, in a matter of years, it all came crashing down.
Not gradually. Violently. Publicly. Permanently. This is the story of how leaked audio recordings destroyed one of Hollywood's biggest careers. To understand the fall, you must first understand the height. Mel Gibson wasn't just another actor. He was box office gold.
Mad Max launched him into stardom in 1979. The Lethal Weapon franchise cemented his status as an action hero through the 80s and 90s.
But Gibson wanted more than fame. He wanted respect. As a director, he achieved it.
Braveheart won 5 Academy Awards in 1996, including Best Picture and Best Director.
He had reached the absolute pinnacle of Hollywood success. Power. Influence. Respect. Everything. Then came the Passion of the Christ. Gibson directed and financed the controversial religious film with his own money. $25 million. Critics predicted disaster. They were wrong. Catastrophically wrong.
The film grossed over $600 million worldwide. It became one of the highest-grossing R-rated films of all time. Gibson's personal profit was estimated at over $300 million.
He wasn't just powerful anymore. He was independently wealthy. Untouchable. Or so he thought. The cracks were already forming. And they were about to split wide open. July 28, 2006. Malibu, California. Sheriff's deputies pulled over a speeding car on Pacific Coast Highway.
The driver was Mel Gibson.
He was drunk. Very drunk. His blood alcohol level was 0.1250% above the legal limit. But the arrest itself wasn't the problem. What happened next was. During the arrest, Gibson unleashed a tirade. Anti-Semitic slurs. Accusations. Conspiracy theories. He asked the arresting officer if he was Jewish. He blamed Jews for all the wars in the world. The officer documented everything. And soon, the entire world would know. The arrest report leaked to TMZ. The details were horrifying. Gibson had reportedly shouted, quote, "The Jews are responsible for all the wars in the world." He made other vile statements. Sexual remarks to a female officer. Threats to the deputies. This wasn't a private moment of weakness. This was documented. Official. A police report doesn't lie. Hollywood reacted with shock and disgust. Jewish leaders called for accountability. The Anti-Defamation League demanded an apology. Gibson's publicist released a statement. But the damage was done. The golden boy image was shattered. Forever. Gibson apologized. Multiple times. He entered rehabilitation for alcohol abuse. He met with Jewish leaders. He released public statements expressing shame and regret. He said the words were born of desperation, not belief. But Hollywood wasn't buying it. The problem wasn't just the rant, it was the specificity. The detail. The coherence. These weren't drunken ramblings. They were articulated thoughts. Beliefs. And once spoken, they couldn't be unspoken. Apologies don't erase documentation. Rehab doesn't rewrite police reports. The entertainment industry began to distance itself. Quietly at first. Then decisively.
Projects disappeared. Deals evaporated. Gibson's agency, William Morris, dropped him. ABC canceled a Holocaust miniseries he was developing. Studios stopped returning calls. In Hollywood, power is perception. And Gibson's perception had become toxic. He wasn't formally blacklisted. Hollywood doesn't work that way anymore. But the effect was the same. An invisible exile. No one wanted to be associated with the controversy. No one wanted the risk. His career, once invincible, was now radioactive. And he thought it couldn't get worse. He was wrong. The worst was still to come. Mel Gibson's marriage to Robin Moore ended in 2006, the same year as his arrest. The divorce would become one of the most expensive in Hollywood history, reportedly over $400 million. In 2009, Gibson began a relationship with Russian pianist Oksana Grigorieva. They had a daughter together in October 2009. But the relationship was volatile. Explosive. By 2010, they had separated. Grigorieva filed for a restraining order. She claimed Gibson had been physically abusive. And she had evidence. Audio recordings. Hours of them. The recordings would soon leak. And they would finish what the DUI started. July 2010. Radar Online began releasing the audio recordings. They were shocking. Horrifying. Indefensible. Gibson's voice, screaming at Grigorieva in a rage-filled tirade. Racial slurs. Misogyny. Threats of violence. The recordings were graphic, profane, and deeply disturbing. He used the N-word multiple times. He made violent threats. He admitted to hitting Grigorieva while she was holding their infant daughter. The audio was authenticated. This wasn't hearsay. This wasn't a police report written by someone else. This was his voice. His words. Recorded. Released. Undeniable. The specifics of the recordings were almost unbearable to hear. Gibson berated Grigorieva with obscene language. He used racial slurs to describe others. He threatened her with statements like, quote, "You're going to get it." He blamed her for everything. He admitted to physical violence, saying he hit her. The tone was menacing. Controlling. Abusive. Legal experts and domestic violence advocates spoke out. This wasn't just a celebrity scandal. This was documented abuse. And the public was hearing it in real time. Every word. Every threat. Every slur. There was no spin that could save him. Hollywood's response was swift and severe. Talent agencies wanted nothing to do with him. Studios shelved projects. Actors refused to work with him. The Creative Artists Agency, one of the most powerful agencies in Hollywood, wanted no association. Directors spoke out. Producers distanced themselves. This wasn't just a PR problem. This was a character problem. The recordings revealed something deeper than a drunken mistake. They revealed a pattern. Rage. Bigotry. Violence. In an industry built on image and reputation, Gibson had become untouchable. Not with power. With disgrace. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department launched a criminal investigation. Domestic violence detectives examined the recordings. They interviewed witnesses. Grigorieva cooperated fully. Gibson faced the possibility of criminal charges, misdemeanor battery, child endangerment, and more. The district attorney's office reviewed the evidence. For months, his legal fate hung in the balance. In March 2011, Gibson reached a plea deal. He pled no contest to a misdemeanor battery charge. He was sentenced to 3 years probation, community service, and mandatory counseling.
He avoided jail. But his reputation? That was already imprisoned. Permanently. Gibson disappeared from the public eye. No red carpets. No interviews. No movie premieres. He became Hollywood's pariah. The man who once commanded $50 million per film couldn't get a studio to return his call. His face, once on every magazine cover, was now absent. The industry he helped build had rejected him. And the rejection was total. This wasn't a temporary scandal. This wasn't a bump in the road. This was exile. The kind of exile that ends careers. Permanently. Brutally. Publicly. And yet, a small part of Hollywood wondered, could he ever come back? Gibson tried to rebuild. Quietly. Carefully. In 2011, he appeared in The Beaver, directed by Jodie Foster. She stood by him publicly. The film bombed. Audiences stayed away. Critics were mixed. Then came Get the Gringo, a small action film released directly to video in the United States. No theatrical release. No fanfare. In 2014, he appeared in The Expendables 3 and Machete Kills, small roles in ensemble casts. Nothing leading. Nothing major. These weren't comebacks. These were survival attempts. The roles were minor. The budgets were smaller. The spotlight was dim. Gibson was working. But he wasn't back. Then came Hacksaw Ridge. Gibson's first directed film in a decade. The story of Desmond Doss, a World War II medic and conscientious objector who saved 75 men without firing a weapon. It was a passion project. A story of faith, courage, and redemption, themes that mirrored Gibson's own journey. The film premiered at the Venice Film Festival in September 2016. It received a 10-minute standing ovation. Critics praised it. Audiences loved it. Hacksaw Ridge was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. Gibson was back. At least professionally. But had Hollywood truly forgiven him? The response to Gibson's Oscar nomination was divided. Some celebrated his artistic return. Others questioned whether Hollywood should reward him at all. Think pieces debated forgiveness versus accountability. Jewish groups remained skeptical. Domestic violence advocates voiced concerns. The Academy nominated him, but many felt uncomfortable applauding him. At the ceremony, Gibson didn't win. Damien Chazelle won Best Director for La La Land. Some felt relief. Others felt justice had been served. Gibson's return was real, but incomplete. He had a seat at the table again. But not at the head. Can someone like Mel Gibson ever truly be redeemed? It's the question that divides audiences, critics, and industry insiders. On one hand, Gibson served his legal sentence. He completed probation. He apologized. He stayed out of trouble. He made a critically acclaimed film about heroism and morality. On the other hand, the recordings still exist. The words he spoke cannot be unspoken. The slurs. The threats. The violence. Forgiveness is complicated. Justice is complicated. Hollywood has forgiven others, Robert Downey Jr., for example. But Gibson's offenses were different. They weren't self-destructive. They were destructive to others. What makes Gibson's case especially difficult is the pattern. The DUI arrest in 2006 revealed anti-Semitic beliefs. The leaked recordings in 2010 revealed racism, misogyny, and violence. These weren't isolated incidents separated by decades. They were 4 years apart. They revealed consistency. A worldview. Not a mistake. The content was specific. Detailed. Repeated. Gibson's defenders argue he was mentally unwell during those periods. That alcohol and stress distorted his behavior. Critics argue that intoxication reveals truth, not fabricates it. The debate continues. But the evidence is clear. And it's recorded. Forever. Some argue Hollywood applies a double standard. Woody Allen continued working despite allegations. Roman Polanski still wins awards despite fleeing the country after pleading guilty to statutory rape. Others have committed crimes and resumed careers. So why is Gibson held to a different standard? The answer may lie in documentation. Gibson's offenses were recorded. Audio doesn't lie. Video doesn't forget. His words were undeniable. Irrefutable. With other celebrities, allegations can be disputed, evidence can be questioned. With Gibson, the evidence is his own voice. That makes forgiveness harder. And accountability clearer. The Me Too movement, which exploded in 2017, complicated Gibson's comeback even further. Hollywood was reckoning with decades of abuse, harassment, and unchecked power. Accountability became the industry's rallying cry. Careers ended overnight. Figures like Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, and Louis C.K. were exiled. In this new climate, Gibson's leaked recordings documenting abuse, threats, and bigotry took on renewed significance. The industry had changed. The tolerance for misconduct had vanished. Gibson's Oscar nomination in 2017 came at the beginning of this shift. Had Hacksaw Ridge been released 2 years later, the response might have been very different. As of today, Mel Gibson continues to work, but in a diminished capacity. He has directed and acted in smaller projects. In 2016, he directed Hacksaw Ridge. In 2020, he appeared in Force of Nature, a low-budget thriller. He's announced plans for a Passion of the Christ sequel. But major studios remain cautious. A-list actors are selective about working with him. His career is no longer what it was. He's no longer a leading man. No longer a box office draw. No longer untouchable in the way he once was. He's a cautionary tale. A reminder that power, fame, and success are fragile. And words, once spoken, can destroy it all. Public opinion on Mel Gibson remains deeply divided. Some believe in second chances. They point to his talent, his artistry, his years of staying out of trouble. They argue that people can change. Others remain unforgiving. They point to the recordings, the slurs, the violence. They argue that some words and actions are unforgivable. Social media debates rage on. Comment sections are battlegrounds. Articles about Gibson generate fierce discussion. This division reflects a larger cultural question: what do we owe those who hurt others? Forgiveness? Accountability? Justice? There are no easy answers. Only consequences. The financial cost of Gibson's scandal is incalculable. Before 2006, he commanded top dollar $25 to $30 million per film. After the leaks, those offers disappeared. Endorsements vanished. Producing deals evaporated. He lost hundreds of millions in potential earnings. But the personal cost may be higher. His reputation, once gold, became synonymous with bigotry and abuse. His legacy, once defined by Braveheart and Mad Max, is now inseparable from those recordings. History will remember both. His talent and his downfall. The cost of scandal isn't just financial. It's historical. It's permanent. It's legacy. Mel Gibson's fall offers lessons for anyone in the public eye. First, nothing is truly private anymore. Technology records everything. Second, apologies matter, but documentation matters more.
Third, patterns are harder to forgive than mistakes. Fourth, power is fragile. A career built over decades can collapse in days. Fifth, words have weight. The things we say in anger, in private, in moments of weakness, they define us. Gibson's downfall wasn't caused by a single moment. It was caused by a series of documented moments. And in the age of recording devices and social media, everyone is one moment away from their own reckoning. Is a true comeback even possible for someone like Mel Gibson? Hollywood loves a redemption story. Robert Downey Jr. overcame addiction and legal troubles to become Iron Man. Matthew McConaughey reinvented himself. Ben Affleck rebuilt his career after tabloid scandals. But those stories involved self-harm, not harm to others. Gibson's recordings documented bigotry and abuse, harm directed outward. That's a different category. A harder forgiveness. Some believe time heals all. Others believe some wounds don't close. The truth may be somewhere in between. Gibson may continue to work. But he may never again reach the heights he once occupied. The throne is still there. But someone else is sitting on it. The media played a crucial role in Gibson's downfall. TMZ leaked the arrest report. Radar Online released the audio recordings. Without those leaks, the public might never have known the full extent of his behavior. Some argue the media acted responsibly, exposing abuse and bigotry. Others argue the media exploited private moments for profit. The truth is both. The recordings were news. They were also content. Clickable. Shareable. Profitable. But regardless of motive, the result was the same. The evidence became public. The public reacted. And Gibson's career paid the price. In the digital age, scandals don't stay private. They become viral. And viral is forever. Hollywood has a long memory. Mistakes are archived. Scandals are indexed. Google never forgets. Every article, every recording, every headline remains searchable. Permanently. When producers consider casting Gibson, they don't just evaluate his talent. They evaluate the risk. The potential backlash. The social media response. They calculate whether the controversy is worth it. And often, the answer is no. It's not about fairness. It's about business. Controversy costs money. It complicates marketing. It divides audiences. And in an industry driven by profit, risk is measured in dollars. Gibson's talent may be undeniable. But so is his history. And history, in Hollywood, is a ledger that never balances. Mel Gibson isn't the only Hollywood figure to experience a career-ending scandal. But his case stands out. Charlie Sheen's meltdown was public, but involved self-destruction. Bill Cosby's crimes led to prison. Harvey Weinstein's abuses sparked a movement. Kevin Spacey's allegations ended his career overnight. Each scandal is unique. But Gibson's is distinct because of the documentation. Audio recordings don't rely on testimony or allegations. They are primary evidence. His voice. His words. That makes denial impossible. And it makes forgiveness harder. Some scandals fade. Some are forgotten. Gibson's is recorded. And recordings don't fade. They play forever. Gibson apologized. Repeatedly. But apologies have limits. An apology can express regret. It can signal change. But it cannot undo harm. It cannot erase words. It cannot unrecord audio. The sincerity of an apology is always debated. Was it genuine? Or strategic? Did he mean it? Or was he protecting his career? The public will never know for certain. What is certain is this: apologies are necessary, but not sufficient. They are the beginning of redemption, not the end.
And for some, no apology is enough. The harm was too great. The words too vile. The recordings too permanent. Gibson apologized. But the world didn't have to accept it. In all of this, one voice is often forgotten: Oksana Grigorieva. She was the one subjected to the abuse. She was the one threatened. She was the one who recorded the evidence, knowing the personal cost. After the recordings leaked, she faced scrutiny, criticism, and doubt. Some accused her of exploitation. Others questioned her motives. But the recordings themselves were clear. Gibson's words were his own. Grigorieva did what many domestic violence survivors struggle to do: she documented the abuse and came forward. Her courage provided the evidence. And that evidence ended a career. But it also told a truth. A truth that needed to be heard. Despite everything, Mel Gibson still has defenders. Jodie Foster has spoken in his favor, calling him a good friend and a changed man. Robert Downey Jr. has publicly supported him. Danny Glover, his Lethal Weapon co-star, has expressed forgiveness. These are not fringe voices. These are respected figures in Hollywood. They argue that people can change. That mistakes don't define us. That redemption is real. Their support matters. It provides Gibson a lifeline. But it also raises questions. Does loyalty excuse accountability? Does friendship override evidence? Hollywood is divided. Some stand with Gibson. Others stand against him. And the debate continues. Loudly. Publicly. Endlessly. Mel Gibson's downfall occurred at a specific cultural moment. The mid-2000s to early 2010s were a time of shifting social norms. Racism, sexism, and homophobia were increasingly called out. Social media gave the public a voice. TMZ and Radar Online made scandals inescapable. The culture was changing. And Gibson was caught in the transition. A decade earlier, his scandals might have been buried. A decade later, he might never have had a career to begin with. But in 2006 and 2010, he fell at the precise moment when documentation met accountability. When private became public. When power met consequence. The timing wasn't coincidental. It was cultural. And it was final. Hollywood learned hard lessons from Mel Gibson's fall. First, reputation is everything. Second, technology has changed the rules. Third, the public demands accountability. Studios now have crisis management teams. PR firms prepare for worst-case scenarios. Actors hire lawyers and reputation consultants. The industry became more cautious. More corporate. More calculated. Gibson's downfall proved that no one is untouchable. Not the biggest stars. Not the most powerful directors. Not even Oscar winners. The culture shifted. And Hollywood shifted with it. But the question remains, did Hollywood learn the right lessons? Or did it just learn to hide better? One question lingers above all others: does Mel Gibson deserve a second chance? The answer depends on who you ask. To some, he's a cautionary tale of unchecked rage and bigotry. To others, he's a flawed man who made mistakes and paid the price. To victims of abuse, his recordings are triggering and unforgivable. To fans of his work, he's an artist whose personal life shouldn't overshadow his talent. There is no consensus. No clear answer. Only perspectives. And those perspectives are shaped by values, experiences, and beliefs. The debate is ongoing. The recordings are permanent. And Mel Gibson remains, forever, a symbol of both talent and downfall. In the end,
What destroyed Mel Gibson wasn't just his words. It was the archive. The police report. The audio recordings. The digital trail. These documents are permanent. They exist on servers, in databases, on websites. They can be listened to, downloaded, shared. They don't degrade. They don't fade. They don't forgive. The archive is unforgiving. And in the age of the internet, everyone has an archive. Every tweet, every photo, every recording. Mel Gibson's archive destroyed him. And it serves as a warning. In a world where everything is documented, nothing is truly private. And nothing is truly forgotten. Mel Gibson's legacy is now split. On one side, the artist. Mad Max Braveheart. The Passion of the Christ. Hacksaw Ridge. Films that moved millions. Performances that defined decades. Direction that won Oscars. On the other side, the recordings. The slurs. The threats. The documented abuse. Both are part of his story. Both are part of his legacy. Future generations will have to reconcile the two. The talented filmmaker. And the deeply flawed man. Some legacies are simple. Mel Gibson's is not. It is complicated. Controversial. Painful. And it will be debated for as long as his films are watched. And his recordings are played. Mel Gibson's story is a warning. To actors. To directors. To anyone in the public eye. Your words matter. Your actions matter. Your private moments can become public. Technology records everything. Social media amplifies everything. And the public judges everything. The rules have changed. The margin for error has vanished. One recording. One rant. One documented moment. That's all it takes. Gibson learned this the hardest way possible. His career, his reputation, his legacy, all altered by words he spoke in anger. The lesson is clear. And it echoes through Hollywood. Be careful what you say. Because the world is listening. And the world records everything. So, did the leaked audio end Mel Gibson's career? Yes and no. He still works. He still directs. He still acts. But the career he once had, the power, the prestige, the A-list status, that career ended. The recordings didn't kill his ability to work. They killed his ability to dominate. To lead. To command the industry the way he once did. He is no longer Mel Gibson, the superstar. He is Mel Gibson, the controversy. And that distinction matters. His career survived. But his empire fell. The audio didn't end his work. It ended his reign. And in Hollywood, the throne doesn't wait for anyone. Mel Gibson's downfall is one of the most dramatic in Hollywood history. A man who had everything. Who achieved everything. Who lost everything. Not slowly. Not quietly. But publicly. Brutally. Permanently. The leaked audio recordings didn't just damage his reputation. They defined it. They became his story. His legacy. His warning. In the end, Mel Gibson is a cautionary tale. A reminder that power is fragile. That words have consequences. That documentation is forever. And that in the age of technology, no one is untouchable. No matter how talented. No matter how successful. No matter how powerful. The recordings played. And the empire fell. That is the story. That is the lesson.
That is the legacy.